Well, you wanted to know how I'm up so much.
Yeah, we were talking
May
about
or
that
may
in the
not be.
pre-call, man. I was like, dude, and you're West Coast, right? So you're 3 hours behind me. I'll be up at like 7 a.m. and you'll be tweeting, so it'll be 4 a.m. for you. Like, just got this sick new win in like Pokemon Unite or whatever. And then 3 hours later, you're on like some kind of event on the PlayStation channel. I'm like, dude, you have to sleep, man. It's an important part of life to sleep.
No, but you know what? There'll be time to sleep eventually. But I literally just did that the other day. I was like restreaming a Japanese Pokemon tournament until like 4 a.m. and then I had to be up at 7 a.m. for a PlayStation tournament. I was like,
Jeez, man, I don't know.
whatever. It
Maybe
is
it's
what
because
it
you're
is.
drinking Bang and not drinking any water. Maybe that's what it is. But dude, I think the first thing I want to ask, man, is how was it being in London for the Pokemon World Championship? Like that is so insane.
Oh yeah, it's well, it was actually my second world championship, but this one was just ridiculous. It was like no other event I've ever been to. I mean, it's like the first post-COVID
Hmm.
big world championship that they had, so they like extended an extra day and they made it like bigger than it's ever been. And just compared to like, obviously there's a bunch of amazing events. I was just at Evo pretty recently, but like I've never seen anything like that. I mean, it's like almost like half a mile just walking through the halls just to get to it, and there's just Pokemon stuff
The
everywhere.
dream, man.
And yeah, the venue itself was just the biggest venue I've ever been in completely. Like the size of just the main stage for that venue was as big as some of the other main venues that I've ever seen. It was an incredible event, and the Pokemon people put on some of the best events that I've ever been to as well. Like there's so much to do if you're not just there to compete. Like there's a lot of like kids that show up and they want to learn like how to play TCG, or they just want to watch or play inside events. And yeah, it was amazing. It was maybe my favorite event I've ever been to. One of my favorites for sure.
That's literally a question that was going to be down the line. What's the favorite event? So we got it right off the rip, dude. That's absolutely insane. And you got to work the event. You didn't just go as a spectator. You were doing Pokken. Is it Pokken or Pokken or both?
It's Pokken technically.
Okay, so
It's
Pokken.
Yeah, I think like technically we were not allowed to call it Pokken because I think that means like it's like some sort of like saying like sickness in like German, and we actually have tournaments in Germany, so
Okay,
it's pretty
no.
funny. I think they're like watch out about mispronouncing it, but yeah, Pokken
All right,
like
so
like
you got to commentate that. How did you even get started commentating? I feel like that's such a niche game that did not take off in the States, which it should have. It's Pokemon, it's 3D fighting games. Like, what else would you possibly want other than that? But it didn't take off in the States, and then how did you get involved, like, commentating that game?
Yeah, well, I mean, just like everything else, you could ask me this about pretty much literally anything that I've ever commentated, but it all just comes down to just like locals, right? Like
Wow.
everything for me started from locals, whether it was like Mortal Kombat or Pokken. I mean, specifically like Pokken, it was pretty cool. It looked pretty cool. I'm a Pokemon fan, like many others are, and of course I played a bunch of fighting games before it, and I watched it at Evo. So I didn't play it right when it came out, but I watched like the first top 8 when it was at Evo the one year, and I was like, oh, this game looks pretty cool. And at Wednesday Night Fights, I actually walked over to the players who were playing Pokken, and it had a pretty good traction, especially in like the major areas, like the Northeast, and in SoCal, we had like 40-person tournaments for a
Oh,
while.
nice.
And I walked over and I was watching it, and it has one of the best communities ever. So this guy named Couch, who's one of my really good friends, he comes over and he's like, hey, do you play this game? Are you interested? Like, would you like to play it? And I was like, oh, I own the game, but I haven't played that much. He's like, hey, you should enter. Come on, like, like basically he was just being super friendly. And then I
Mhm.
did, and I would have been, too scared to, honestly, kind of a wuss for that. But then I ended up doing that, and then there was like really good production for a lot of the tournaments. Shout outs to like the Animura team. And so I commentated a few locals over time. I ended up commentating some stuff for 2GG after that was a little bit bigger. And then eventually they needed somebody to commentate some of the bigger events. And so my first ever event, I flew 20 hours to Australia for my first ever official event, I would say. And yeah, just how it happens, you start with locals and everything builds
And
up.
you're just building up all the way. Dude, I feel like you travel so much, but just in this conversation, just off Pokken, I was going to say Pokken again, just off Pokken, you've been to London and Australia. Any other countries? I mean, just those two alone, you've locked in more miles than I think like 90% of commentators that are doing their thing right now.
Yeah, it's really cool. The whole format of the official Pokemon, all the Pokemon like competitive stuff is that they've
Yeah.
got these international championships.
Yes.
So every circuit is comprised of a big tournament in well, usually first it's Australia, and then it's in Germany usually for EUIC, they call it European International Championship. Then there's one big one in North America, and then there's Worlds, which is, this year was in London. So I've been to each of those twice now. So I went to Melbourne twice in Australia for Pokemon. I went to Berlin and Frankfurt in Germany, and then around the US a few times, and then London. So yeah, Pokemon. I mean, Pokemon. Everybody loves Pokemon all across the world, right?
Say,
it's like super
everybody in
international.
the world loves it, man. If there's one thing to love, it's Pokemon, dude. And that's what's so cool, because in this like fighting game world that I've kind of find myself in, I feel like not a lot of people talk about Pokemon, dude. Like there's a couple, and I'm starting to see it here and there. And I have Mustard on the show later this week, and I know he's been doing this thing with Pokemon, which is absolutely awesome. But were you growing up playing the games, or was this something that kind of just like fell into your lap over like growing up? Like when did the Pokemon thing start for you?
Well, first I have to kind of interrupt. I don't know if you know, but did you know that Mustard actually went to Worlds and competed in Pokken?
I saw his tweets. Yeah. And he was like, I was learning a character the night before in my hotel room.
Yeah, well, this fool, he came and he was like, I just don't want to go O2. And literally the first thing that we do is he sits down and he fights his first opponent and he OCVs him, because it's like a 3v3 format for Worlds. So like just literally just OCVs the opponent. I'm like, yeah, of course this dude's cracked. Of course. Like what
are you
would
gonna
I
do?
expect?
It's in their blood, man. He's a twin, so it's in his DNA to be good at fighting games.
It's true. It's an unfair advantage. But back to the actual question. Yeah, I love Pokemon. I think I don't remember what year it was, but or how old I was. I was like 5 years old or something, and I got Pokemon Red and Blue. Me and my brother for Game Boy, and it all just started from there. So I've played like pretty much every Pokemon game over time. So it's just been a consistent thing. I used to love watching I had the VHS of the first like 2 episodes of the Pokemon show, and just ever since being a kid, like for sure.
Yep. Are you doing the cards too, or is it much more of like the video game and the media?
I used to play the cards more when I was a kid, but it can be expensive, as a hobby.
I tried to do it on YouTube, and I was like, yeah, maybe the bank account's not letting me be part of this community right now.
Yeah. I would like to, is what I'm going to say. Yes. I know that they're releasing like a new like digital version for it. They have one right now, but they're releasing like a newer one. So I wanted to try when it came out, but for me, it's mostly video games, mostly just because like money.
Yeah, and then you play the very like obscure Pokemon games, like not just the mainline ones. Like you go hard in Pokemon Unite, which is their free-to-play Nintendo Switch MOBA. And I always see you tweeting about that. I'm like, yo, I think this is the only dude I know that's like crushing this game right now, and I love it, man. You play all the obscure ones, and it's great.
I play a lot of obscure just games.
Dude, honestly, general, but, a lot of your tweets, yeah. I'm just like, yo, what game is Chef playing this week, bro? Like, what is this? Well, last thing for Pokemon, what is all-time favorite Pokemon game for you?
All-time favorite Pokemon game. This is a super hot take, right? So, well, it's kind of a split. Can I give 2 answers?
Just because it's more than okay.
Okay.
You play all of them, so 2 answers is fine.
Yeah. Well, okay. I gotta say Pokemon, but if we're talking about like main Pokemon games, of course, like Black and White. Back in the day, me and my homie, I got a homie named like Thornstone, and we live streamed it back when like Twitch wasn't even a thing. We live streamed a Nuzlocke of the like fan translation of Black and White, and we used to get like 100 people. It would like cap out. Like back then we were on livestream.com and it would cap out, and that was the first time that I ever did any streaming or anything, and I like have never been that successful again. But we had like tons of people trying to watch this Nuzlocke fan translation, and we got like a folder of fan art, and it was super fun. We had a really cool community for that, so we were like kind of ahead of the game in that one. That was back before all the games got released simultaneously. So that one for sure has a special place in my heart. But I really like Sword and Shield.
It's a great
personally
game,
too.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
I was shocked because I didn't think I'm like very old school when it comes to the Pokemon, right? Like Emerald, all that, like Crystal. I like Pearl. I'll play Diamond and Pearl here and there, but it's like Gen 1 through 3 is big for me. And I got Sword and Shield, and I didn't really like think I was gonna fall in love with it. Dude, within like an hour, I'm like, bro, this is like a Pokemon kids fans dream of a game. They're like running around next to you and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, you cannot beat this right now. But yeah, that's insane. And the fan translation too. You guys just went completely for it, man. I absolutely love it. Have you thought about bringing any type of like Pokemon? Because I know, again, I have it all in my questions and stuff, so we can get into it. But I know that like you're kind of doing your thing with content right now. I saw you uploading a couple of YouTube videos over the past month. You're streaming very regularly, it seems like. Would you bring back like the fun Pokemon challenges, Pokemon stuff? Because it seems like you love it. And I always tell people like stream and make content for what you love. And you seem to know so much about it, right? You ever think about bringing Pokemon back to the live stream or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah, every once in a while I'll try it. You know, it's a little tough because usually when I stream, you know, I mean streaming's tough for anybody out there who's trying to stream.
Yeah.
It's very tough. It doesn't matter, like, you know, I work a lot of events and stuff, but like people won't watch me stream unless it's like for very specific things, right? Like mostly fighting games. If I'm streaming fighting game, I'll get people watching. If I'm streaming fighting game adjacent stuff, like I've been streaming a lot of Rumbleverse recently, people will watch that. But when I stream, like for example, Sword and Shield came out and I was like, oh, I'm gonna stream it and I'm gonna learn you know, the competitive like strats and stuff, and I actually learned a lot, you know, VGC, and I put like 1,000 hours into it, and not a lot of people watched it. So it's definitely the stuff that I like. I've been like working on making a few more videos recently, so that might be more.
I was hyped.
Yeah, I'm lazy. I should do more.
Oh,
but
come on.
I mean,
you're saying you're lazy when you're literally staying up till 4 and then commentating at 7. You can't tell me you're lazy. I don't want to hear that, man.
That's fair.
But no, definitely.
Fair, but,
I think you should. I think you should, man. If you love it, and what's important is like, you know, you build the community in there. Like you have your FGC people that already know you, but then like you start dipping your feet into the pond of like the Pokemon world. New people find you over time through your videos or your streams, and it kind of builds on itself from there, as opposed to just like relying on this pond over here, which is FGC. You know.
Yeah, it's true. It's a tough road, but for sure, I'm gonna try a little bit harder, especially once the new games come out. I really want to get into those. I put a lot of time into like trying to be competitive in VGC previously, but then COVID hit and like a lot of the tournaments shut down, and I was like, let's just do something else. So
Yeah.
so it'll be eventually.
Dude,
But
Scarlet and Violet is gonna be pretty sick games, man. I'm super pumped for them, dude. I'm so happy I get to finally talk about Pokemon with someone in like the Mortal Kombat world. I feel like I always got to talk about Mortal Kombat, which we are gonna talk about. But okay, I said that was the last Pokemon thing, but I there's more. I'm sorry, there's more. At
good.
Worlds, you were wearing a Cramorant shirt, and you also had a shiny Cramorant card in the pocket. Is Cramorant your favorite Pokemon, and how did that become a thing?
It is the way that it came about. Honestly, I don't even know. Well, okay, so when it first came out, I was really, I mean, I thought it was like a funny Pokemon. I mean, it is a funny Pokemon, right? It's like stupid, and it's canonically like it's like super powerful, but it's too stupid to be able to actually make use of it. And it has a cool gimmick with its whole like, you know, use surf, use dive, and it gets the little like fish with the Pikachu in its mouth, and then, you know, it's like a unique game mechanic. So I was like, you know what, I kind of like this Pokemon. I'm gonna try to make a team. And so then my first ever competitive team that I made for Pokemon was it was a Cramorant team with like the whole gimmick about how to use it, and it would lead Cramorant. And I was like, you know what, we're gonna do a stream, and we're gonna try to grind to it's master rank is the highest rank in like the ranked ladder for Pokemon VGC. And I was like, all right, let's see how long this takes. And I did it in like one day, faster than I thought. And I was like, whoa,
Yo, I'm a god at
so,
this game.
Well, but it was like supposed to be a Cramorant meme, so the Cramorant meme carried me all the way. And then from there on, I was like, okay, I love this freaking thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just ended up being the one, and it's been since.
Hey, listen, that's a good YouTube video right there. How to make a Cramorant team work in online VGC. I'm just saying. I got the ideas for days. But that's absolutely awesome. I love the story behind that. And yeah, what a random Pokemon. Not Pelipper from the OG days. You picked Cramorant, huh? No interest in Pelipper. Same thing.
I mean, Pelipper is good actually. I used to do some of Pelipper because it's like it like sets rain, so it's really good for rain teams actually. But so I use both actually. I have a fully trained competitive Pelipper in my box.
That is so funny, man. That is so random, but it's so funny. One other thing I wanted to ask you. I love to ask this question. Where does the name WonderChef come from? When did it start? And you rolled with it. How did it happen?
All right, so it's from a different game. I played a lot of like JRPGs growing up, including Pokemon. Kind of, obviously, it's pretty different. But so I originally back in the day when I first started playing fighting games, before I started playing fighting games, I had like a bunch of other different tags, and I didn't settle on one. And I started playing Street Fighter 4, and I realized that I needed to actually like choose a tag. And at that point, I was playing Fuerte, who is a chef, of course, but the name WonderChef itself comes from the Tales of series. So Tales is like Symphonia, Tales of Abyss, if anybody's played that. I think the last one they put it in was like Tales of Vesperia. So if anybody's played any of that series, it's just like this recurring character that's really silly. It like hides in as like disguised objects. You find it and it teaches you a recipe, and then it like disappears, and it does a whole stupid spiel. So I named myself after that because I cook a lot. I cook a ton.
I was gonna ask, are you a chef?
Yeah, not by profession. At one point I would have liked to, but man,
Wow.
that's got to be one of the hardest
Yeah, man.
like professions. Like
No shot.
huge kudos to anybody who's an actual like chef or cook in like the restaurant business, because that's like you got to be like, working for like 14 hours and on your feet all day and in the hot kitchen, and
No
you get
shot,
like
bro.
no rest. Yeah, that's ridiculous. But yeah, I cook a lot, as like just for myself and for my family. And then it was from Fuerte, and then it was from the Tales of series. So it was just this kind of big combo, and then it stuck because I mean I like the name. Chef is easy to say.
Dude, as soon as you joined this call, I'm like, yo, chef, what's up, man? Like it's
Yep.
one syllable. I'm so jealous. I wish I went with a one syllable name, man. That's the one thing. It's so good. And then what's the EGP stand for then?
Oh, that's really old school. But that's a lot of like MK9 history, so that's a good
Wow.
one. Back in the day, like way early on, there were just a few people in SoCal like playing MK9. Like there were some people that played other games, but like the real like NRS heads there was like me and like Crazy and like Red Reaper and Tyrant and like a few others that I'm sorry for not shouting them out, but we all kind of like gathered together at these tournaments run by my friend Brian Compton, and he ran the tournaments under the name EGP, which listen, it was back in the day. It's less cringe back then, but it stands for Epic Gamer Productions, right? So the whole Epic Gamer thing. Listen, it was 2009. Okay,
That's fine.
That was
That's
a long
perfectly
time ago.
Dude, wow.
It was
Okay. Yeah, that makes it okay.
Yeah, but so it was all the locals were like EGP locals, and it was like, oh, let's go to this EGP event, EGP Thunderdome, EGP whatever, and they ran all the brackets at like SoCal regionals, and just a lot of any of the SoCal stuff was EGP. So when we all went out to travel, right, like we'd go out to MLGs or we'd go out to NEC or just any of these big tournaments, Evo, we'd all just rep the tag. So back in the day it was EGP Tyrant, it was EGP Crazy, it was EGP WonderChef, obviously, and when unfortunately, there's like a company called WonderChef as well, so they took a lot of the like names on social. So I just have stuck with EGP WonderChef throughout. Dude, after that, and it's cool to rep.
Every time I like tried to go to your Twitter because I had to like get your Twitter for this or like whatever the case may be, I always went to they always auto defaulted to that one with the check mark. But I'm like, dude, no, I don't want them. I want EGP WonderChef. Wow. All right, what jerks, man. We're gonna have to talk to them. You're gonna have to take that check mark from them. This is bullshit. But, dude, going back to the MK9 days, man. So you've been around, I mean, dude, longer than some of these people that are playing MK11 now have been alive. Not to make you feel dated, but holy shit, dude. That's insane.
Yeah, no, I've thought about that. And yes, I'm extremely old. We've officially been, a few of us that started early on, we've officially been playing the NRS game specifically for more than a decade now, which is tough. But yeah, I mean, I started fighting games like a few years before MK9, but I really got, bigger with MK9, and yeah, I've been around for too long now. It's time to give it up.
How do you think that you've been able, I hate the word relevant. I really don't like the word relevant. How have you been able to maintain just a level of like people knowing who you are and you getting work over the past 14 years, 13 years?
Yeah. Well, okay, so I was a player like primarily
That's
up
how
until
it started, huh?
2000. Yeah. Always as a player, So like back in MK9, I made a few top 8s at majors. I couldn't travel a lot, but I made a few top 8s at majors. I was like pretty good. It was a different time back then where like none of us knew how to play. We didn't know that low pokes were minus until like 2 years into the game or something. But I just played a lot. I helped run locals. I didn't do much commentary. I did a little bit of commentary. It wasn't like a goal of mine or anything, but I just commentated at locals because I played every character. That's really where it all started. Is I'm terrible at choosing a main, so I just knew stuff, and we needed somebody on the mic, so I would just be there. But then I didn't start really like commentating as like a commentator until 2015, or maybe it was I think late 2015 for MKX.
Yep.
But it was all just being a player until then, right? So like I even the start of that, like people like they didn't really like remember it because it's so long back then now. But I won the first major technically for MKX. I won Northwest majors where like everybody decided to fly out because it was like a week after release, and that was really fun. And then like back in Injustice 1, I made a few top 8s as well, like SCR. I made like top 4 and stuff like that. So it was just all playing. It's just a player turned into a commentator. And then once I became a commentator, I'm lucky because being in SoCal is like it's like a cheat code for working in production. And so just being able to be local to so much stuff, and then just kind of building up like experience and being reliable is just it's led to like a pretty good decade, I guess.
Oh, it's a pretty good decade, man. That's absolutely insane. Who were you playing in MK9? Oh, you said you don't have a main. Who did you win the MKX tournament with then? I'll ask.
Quan Chi for sure. Quan
You
Chi
were the
was,
Quan Chi one.
yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I understand now. Because when I did a podcast with Mr. Aquaman, we had a bunch of MKX guys on. They always talked about the Quan Chis that were just ransacking all of MKX at the beginning of the game, and you were one of them. Okay, now that I can put a face to the stories, I'm happy I can do that.
Yeah, shout outs to also to Dink, Shijinki Dink, who was the Quan father, the original Quan player from back even from MK9. Yeah, me and him, we were both there actually. We were both in top 8 of that tournament, and we had a Quan mirror, which was disgusting at that time because that character could do everything in all broken ways, and we sat full screen from each other the entire time. But shout outs to him. It could have been him easily as well, I think, that won that major, but I got lucky in a game.
And he also said, because again, I did have him on a podcast on another podcast, but he said he wouldn't have even played Quan Chi if Lee Mei was in the game. Think about that. If Lee Mei was in the game, he would not be the Quan father, and you guys wouldn't have been able to share that experience because he would have mained Lee Mei. Crazy how everything ends up working out, man.
I know. And then they denied him Lee Mei for the past now 10 years, 11 years.
Good. If anything, good. We don't need her. She doesn't need to be in the game. I just made a lot of people that like that character mad. Anyway, one thing that I wanted to ask too was you said you started commentating, just being in SoCal, you're just player turned commentator, right? When did you realize that, like, because you said you didn't want to do it at first. When did you realize, like, yo, you know what? Like, this could be a very nice little career path that I can build for myself.
Well, to be 100% honest, even until now, like I never expected to be like a full career, even, with the stuff that I've done. It's so hit or miss, and you have to stay updated with games and stuff. So, but obviously, I've done a lot, and it's been a big part of like what my career is and my income for a long time. So it really all started with we kind of got like a kickstart here in SoCal. For back when like we didn't have too many like quote unquote esports things for fighting games. ESL put on a huge shout outs to Joshua Gray specifically.
Awesome guy.
He put on he threw out this entire idea and sold it of this Mortal Kombat X Pro League to ESL, and he was the producer on it, and he was so many of the ideas behind it. The entire staff was great, but not a lot of fighting games had that level of a show that had that level of production. And I wasn't on it for the first season. It was actually Dustin Kane, Godspeed, and Brian Compton, who I was just talking about. But then Brian Compton moved over to work on the actual show, and then I joined in there. So not a lot of like, there wasn't just that level of production and a lot of stuff. And so as soon as I started that, I was like, okay, this is actually kind of sick that like, this is actually like paying like a normal, like, actual work amount. And this is like super like buttoned up and professional. And like, I could maybe do this for something else. And, I wasn't sure back then, but that was definitely the first time. As soon as I got on that, I was like, maybe this is actually like a thing. And then going in there and seeing that world, right? You go into like the big studios, the production studios, and you see all the other shows they're doing with like Halo and like, I don't know. I mean, Blizzard stuff and Rocket League, and it's just like you're like, okay, whoa, like this is a whole world, like maybe I could get into this, and I did, I guess.
And you got right into it. Yep. And then have you had a favorite game to commentate over these past 7 years or so? Is it Pokken?
It is Pokken.
It all leads back to that, man.
Yeah, it's hard to not say MKX as well. I thought MKX was one of the most fun games to watch. It was super chaotic and mix-up heavy, and a very cruel game to be a player sometimes. But it was super fun to watch. But Pokken is, I really can't explain it. For anybody who hasn't watched Pokken, you should go watch Pokken. Watch the grand finals from this year's Worlds. Watch the grand finals from like 2018 Worlds. It leads itself to just being one of the best games to watch. Even if you don't understand the game, like the energy in it and the back and forth in it and just everything about it, it's so hype. I really can't explain it. Like I feel like it makes my commentary better because there's just always just amazing moments. Like I don't even need to try. So for Pokken for sure.
Pokken definitely. I love to hear that. Are they making a second one? Any word on that? Or are they still working on this first one? Or the first one's done, right?
The first one's done. There's a lot of chatter about like everybody being involved wanting to make a second one. It's partially Pokemon, it's partially Bandai Namco. So like Harada actually said like, oh yeah, we would love to make another one, but Pokemon has to agree. And the producer of the game, the director of the game, Hoshino was like, oh yeah, we'd love to make another one. He actually moved from, he was the director for Pokken, and now he's the producer for Unite. And he went up to Worlds, right? Obviously he's currently working on Unite, but he hung out at the Pokken area the entire time, and he was like hanging out with the Japanese players because he knows them really well, and he did an impromptu signing session over at the Pokken area. So like he still loves the game, and he for sure wants to make a second. He's made it clear he wants to make another one, and it's just about like they got to get everybody together and they got to figure it out. And so we're keeping our hopes up, but there's nothing set in stone yet. So we're still playing this game, but we're still finding new stuff all the time. So I'm fine with more years of Pokken.
I definitely could tell that, dude. I love that you love that game. So with that, you kind of mentioned it before. You're like, it's kind of difficult to keep up with all these different games and stuff like that. But you are very interesting to me because you I use the term Swiss Army knife a lot, especially when I was talking to Mr. Aquaman a few weeks back on the show. But dude, you are commentating sometimes even in the same damn week. You're commentating Mortal Kombat 11. You're commentating Pokken. I even saw that you tweeted you just did like an Apex tournament, right? How are you able? Because I feel like in the commentary world, just from the outside looking in, you kind of have your game and that's it, right? Like if you're a Halo commentator, you're a Halo commentator. You're a Call of Duty commentator, Call of Duty, right? You don't really see that kind of mismatch or cross-pollination of these commentators a lot. I guess there's whatever exceptions, but for you kind of hitting every single game out there, man. And I'm sure if there's Rumbleverse tournament, you'll do it, right? Like, how are you able to, I guess, bring the hype, but also maintain that level of knowledge that a veteran commentator like you brings?
I mean, it really all comes down, I think, to being a player, right? Like, I don't really ever go into a game being like, yeah, I mean, very rarely, but like going into a game being like, yeah, I want to commentate this game. Like the first thing I ever want to do for any game is like play in tournaments, right? So like with MK11, right? I didn't go into MK11 being like, yeah, I'm going to be a commentator. Like the first thing I did was I like practiced up and I went and I won a few locals, and our scene kind of died off a little bit in 11, but it started off like me being a player. Same thing with like Pokken, I started off being a player. So like I think once you get like a competitive kind of like groundwork for your knowledge, it's pretty easy to like learn stuff even while you're commentating, right? Like it's not like if you had no competitive knowledge, it would be like, okay, this person's winning a lot, but I all I know is that they're winning a lot. But you might say like, oh, like I understand why they're winning because they're using the strategy that makes sense with with what my knowledge already brings. Like I understand obviously like competitive stuff with like frame data, and like I've experienced situations like that, and so I think it makes it a lot easier to kind of get up to the commentary level if you just try to be competitive first. And I know it's not easy, right? It's not an easy thing, but luckily I have like a lot of years of play experience, so that's how I tend to do it. Some games not as much, right? Like we're actually just talking about that Apex tournament. That was like me filling in for somebody who unfortunately like got hit by a hurricane. So my knowledge wasn't 100% there, but some like that one, like I just have a bunch of casual hours in because I like the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't have that much time, so I think it's all just about like building up base competitive knowledge, and then everything else from there, like it flows.
So playing first and then get into it. Is there any games that you're looking at that you would like? You said it happens rarely, but is there anything that either you're playing now or on the horizon where you're like, I want to commentate that?
Yeah. I'm currently playing a lot of. You might have seen me tweeting about it. The new Gundam Evolution. Like
I was
like
gonna say, I'm
shooter.
like, you're gonna be a commentator for this Gundam game, dude. You're going hard on it already. I can tell.
I hope so. It's a totally different scene. It's not just like a fighting game where I can jump in and like people will be like, oh yeah, he's done some other stuff. But that one too though, like it started, I didn't expect it. I'm not like, oh, this game is like gonna be super esports and I want to be a commentator. It's like I played the network test and I was like, yo, this game is mad fun. I didn't expect this. And then I was like, you know what? Like let's play the real game, and the real game's super fun. And I'm like, okay, I freaking love this game, but my actual like aim and shooters is not super good. I'll be honest. I may have been practicing some other types of execution, but at least I want to commentate that game at the very minimum, because that game is just mad fun.
Yeah, and then aren't you playing Siege? Like you play Siege, don't you? Your aim's got to be somewhat decent.
Okay, it's a different type of aiming though. It's a different type of aiming. In Siege, it's all about like pre-aiming, right? And like unless you're like you're like an entry fragger or something like that, like then you got to snap to spots. But even then, like it's about like knowing which spots you got to look at on a map, and you land like a couple good shots in Siege, and it's like you literally kill them. Yeah. And so much of it about is like pre-planning and tactics. And I love Siege. That's one of my favorite games of all time. Which another game I never expected to be a huge fan of, but In Gundam and most of the shooters like Apex and stuff like that, like you gotta like track people and you gotta control your recoil for like longer periods of time, and you gotta make sure that you can like one clip people, where in like Siege you can one shot people.
Yeah,
So
literally.
it's it's different. But I do love Siege. That's another game that like I would love to eventually maybe commentate, but it's such a complicated game. It's so like
Dude,
knowledge based. You gotta know like everything.
If you're not
sick,
only
though.
playing Siege and only watching Siege on YouTube, and like, how the hell are you supposed to commentate that game, dude?
I don't know. I really have no idea. Like I put so many hours in that game, and then I'll watch the actual like tournaments that they stream, and they just automatically know like all the different like routes into every single like point of interest on the map, and all the different like setups that every team could use with different picks, and like it's just there's so many interactions in that game. It's like impossible, but that's what makes it sick to me.
Yeah, and that's what shows that like I think a lot of people think commentary is like just talking into the mic, dude. And it is so not that in any way, shape, or form. And if anything, you're just quote unquote sitting there. But like I've commentated a few times, bro. By the end of it, I'm shot. I'm winning. My throat hurts. I'm shot. I don't want to get up. I don't want to do anything. I can't think straight. And I've seen, especially when I want to ask you about like your relationship with PlayStation and stuff like that. But I've seen you do when PlayStation was doing those MK11 weeklies, because I know they do the monthly now, the streamed one, but they used to do the weekly ones. And you would do the EU one in the morning, which is like 2-3 hours, whatever. Take like an hour break, and then you're doing the NA one. Like, how did you just maintain that same level of energy when you're doing the NA Grand Finals 6 hours after the EU Grand Finals?
Oh, that one's tough. That one's really tough. These that's how all the PlayStation tournaments are, and I mean I really appreciate them, everybody at PlayStation. But those are for sure really long days. That's actually what we just had for Apex like 2 days ago, and it's still how the MK ones are. Some of them it goes by pretty quick, and we can get like a nice little break. But like honestly, like every one that Tweety's in, it gets really long. Specifically Tweety, playing with that super slow Garrus, who's just already like a character that just takes forever for every animation. We're like, okay, yep, it's either going to be a 3-hour tournament or Tweety's going to be there and it's going to be a 4-hour and 15-minute tournament.
Tweety, what are you doing, man? What are you doing to these guys?
But the energy, honestly, I just kind of go into like, I don't know. I go into a mode and I don't think about anything, and then as soon as it's over, I'm just dead. And I mean, bigger shout outs though to like Ketchup, who actually finishes those tournaments at like 2 a.m. because it ends at like 4 or 5 p.m. later than that. Sorry, 6:30 p.m. for me. But Ketchup is all the way across the world, so like being able to do that until 2 a.m. is actually incredible. So I'll honestly ask him, because
I'm gonna get him on show and be like, Chef told me to ask you, how the hell do you go until 2 o'clock in the morning commentating these events, man? But how did that relationship with PlayStation start? Was it through Mortal Kombat 11?
I think it was through Mortal Kombat 11. Yeah. So I guess to preface things, my main career is not necessarily casting, although it's a good portion of it. I do a lot of actual like esports production on the back end, just because there's a ton of studios out here in SoCal. So for example, like a lot of the PlayStation stuff is like via ESL, or there's companies like eSports Engine or NGE or 3 Black Dot, or there's a million companies out here in or Beyond the Summit, who I was just working at. And so I actually was fun fact, the most recent I commentated the Mortal Kombat Summit back when that happened, but I was also the technical director on the most recent Smash Ultimate Summit that happened like last week, which was why it took so long for me to be able to do this.
Dude, what?
Yeah.
How do you get him? Okay, so this whole time all my stuff is listed for like commentary questions, right? When did you get involved in back end tournament organization and production? That's awesome.
Well, I mean, originally we when we were doing all the EGP stuff that we talked about earlier, we ran a bunch of tournaments, and we figured out how to run our own streams a little bit. And there's just this grassroots nature of like being able to like just fix things together that shouldn't work, and minimal levels of like cost, and that's a super valuable thing we ended up learning. So like me and like Brian Compton, for example, like we were both commentators for the MKX Pro League at first, and he went from that into being a project manager And so then he went off, and now he has a whole career in it. And we're actually working together on the Sony tournaments, which is really funny. And then from there, I went and I learned some other skills. So like I was like an admin for a while, and then from being an admin, I learned how to do like a graphics operator on production lines, and from graphics operator, I learned how to do like some audio stuff and like technical direct and just a whole bunch of different things. And it just spread out from being like a commentator, and then knowing like, okay, you know, I just being a commentator can be really tough. Like, let's learn how this all actually works. And there are a lot of people, actually, surprisingly, I think a lot of people don't know this, but in like the big esports production out there are a ton of people that you probably know and have been in the scene for like a really long time. Like, for example, like even people like Vicious, like, you know, the commentator for Street Fighter and many other things, is out there, you know, working at a big esports company. And there's like people like Guns Ablaze, who maybe people don't remember as much, but used to be a big community member, and he's working in a lot of stuff like that. There's tons of people that are grassroots people that have moved on to like actually making it jobs, and a lot of them don't make it public, but it's true. It's super cool.
Yeah, and I love that. It seems like every single part of your story, you kind of started at level 1 and just level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, and you just kept going up until it all started to work. And I think it's absolutely awesome, because I feel like a lot of people, they just want to be at level 10 right away, right? But you got to start at level 1. And that, I think that kind of is like, I asked the question before, like, how did you kind of keep your head afloat in this game for so long? It's just, you kept going through the levels. You kept leveling up, kept learning new things, kept branching out, and it gave you a nice career. And I think that's the most important thing, man. It's awesome to hear that that was kind of your story from from day one, starting as like an MK9 player, and you learn this, and then you learn this, and now you're doing this, and then you make top 8, and then you moved on to this. And yeah, just seeing those levels like happen it's absolutely insane, to be honest with you. Because again, everybody just wants to be a level 10. They want to be a level 15, but start from the bottom. That's how it goes.
Yeah. It's important, you know, you got to build up the base. This is the same thing with, like I was talking about earlier, with like, how do you keep your, you know, commentary like relatively knowledgeable across all the games? It's just like starting with your you know, your base level, and then working up and not skipping any steps and trying to jump the gun on things. It's important to me. But also to finish the actual point. So I was actually working some production on the.
We got really deep for no reason. Now we can. All right, yeah, go back to it, please.
It was I mean, hey, it's good though. I love talking about that, because I do really feel like it's important to have a base. But so I was working some production on the PlayStation stuff, and originally it was Ketchup and Mustard, which of course, you know, amazing duo, literally like unbeatable. And then for a while, Mustard had to step out, and they needed somebody to replace him. And then I was like working already some production on it a little bit, and the people who were in charge of it knew me pretty well. You know, like I said, I've worked with a lot of these people before, and so then they were like, "Hey, do you want to, you know, jump on this?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I think it was actually a last minute thing, which that's another thing, by the way. If anybody's looking to be a commentator, my biggest piece of advice is always be prepared to like do things last minute and like be dependable. So I think actually it was like Mustard had to jump away, I want to say like actually like the morning of, and I jumped on and then from there, like they're like, okay, you know, this is actually a good pick. Like he was here, he was dependable, and then you know, I ended up being on there more over as time went on, and then from there, like you know, then they're like, okay, literally the same thing happened again recently this last week, where you know, again, like Girl, one of the Apex, her tag is Girl, one of the Apex casters who's like really good at like an ALGS and stuff, like last minute got hit by hurricane, power went out, nothing you can do about it, and they're like, who do we know that kind of knows Apex, right? And they were like, oh, you know who we've done this before with is Chef. And so that's pretty much how it is, you know. I was ready, I was there, and I was dependable, and I got lucky. It's all about getting lucky, really.
Oh man, I think the word luck, it's when preparation meets opportunity, right? You've prepared all this time, you've honed your craft, the opportunity knocks on your door. Hey, you want to do this event? Yes. Right? So when preparation meets opportunity, no luck. Come on. Let's throw that out the window. That discredits all the work that you've put in and the success that you've had. But how did it feel doing the Apex thing, man? Do you think you want to do more Apex or more, I guess, FPS? I know you said Gundam a little bit, but more maybe, I guess, mainstream FPS titles. Anything that you feel good about it, or are you kind of just like, yeah, well, they needed me, so?
I mean, I really like Apex. I played a lot of early Apex. Luckily, we had the first
season 0, bro, of Apex. Oh, Kings Canyon, like Skull Town, Wingman, Peacekeeper. God, take me back, bro.
I know. Okay, so I'm gonna be 100% honest. Like I was pretty scared, right? I was pretty scared going in. I'm not a current Apex player. I have like a few, like maybe like almost 2,000 hours in Apex though, which was a lot. Like that was my casual game for a long time, for like years. But Mostly I knew early stuff, right? Exactly like you're talking about Kings Canyon, Skull Town, and I was like, boy, I'm really worried. Like I got to know all the new like POIs on the new
Hmm.
map and all the rotations, and then I get there and they're like, okay, yeah, so they just brought Kings Canyon back and they brought back Skull Town, and that's what we're gonna be playing the whole tournament on. I was like,
That's
are you
lucky.
kidding me?
That's
Are you
lucky.
kidding?
Okay, you know what? That's lucky.
I know, I know. Literally couldn't. That is actual luck. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I can talk about this. I can talk about where Hydro is and swamps and Skull Town and Market. And I'm like, I actually know stuff here. This is actually super fortunate. So it was fun. It was fun though. I really liked it a lot. I never. I mean, I played a lot of battle royales. I never even thought about commentating battle royale because it's tough.
I was
There's
gonna
a
say,
lot
yeah.
going on all the time. But it was extremely fun. I didn't expect how fun it was going to be. Uh, I mean, I would like to more, but I always still to have like the thought that I think like if somebody really wants to commentate something, they should like really like focus on it, and it should be like a concentrated effort to actually like be prepared for that type of commentary. And I never ever like to commentate for things that I'm not prepared for. Like for example, like there have been times where I've been asked to commentate like Tekken, and just because they know that I'm like an FGC person,
Mhm.
and I like could technically do that, but like I would never do that because it's kind of like disrespectful to the players in the game. So like I've sent it off to other people that I know are really good commentators. Like one time even like E3, which was pretty cool. But yeah, same thing with Apex, right? Like I'd like to do it more because it's fun, but I don't know if I would ever like have the time to put in the effort to do it more. But I mean, I'd definitely be like available for it, and it'd be super fun.
Yeah, the Apex thing is tough, man, because I feel like, again, not saying it's easy, but fighting games, you got to focus on two people, right? You
Yeah.
got a guy on the left, guy on the right. A battle royale commentary, you got 20 teams of 3 in all different parts of the map, doing all different kinds of things, fighting all different kinds of people with all different types of loadouts and legends and stuff like that. It's like these BR people too, man. They got, I don't know how the hell they're doing it, dude, but the ones that are like fluid and like you don't even realize they're commentating. It's like, God, like how the hell can like my brain hurts just playing one Mortal Kombat 11 game where I got to focus on the other guy, and you're telling me these people are like paying attention to 60 people on a massive map for 25 to 27 minutes or whatever, however long a game is. Like, dude, come on, man. How are they doing that, Chef? What are they doing?
I don't know. That's a skill that we really don't get. Like a lot of actually, secretly, not so secretly, a lot of the FGC commentary like transfers really well into other games, and people love fighting game commentators. They love them in other games, but concentrating on like multiple things happening at once is just something we don't get. So like same thing with like the MOBA
Mm.
commentators. Like when you see like league commentators
Oh,
and they're
dude.
watching a team fight of like 8 people, and they're like, oh, this person's ult is up right now, and then this person's gonna be landing their
I'm
Q, and then it
like,
looks like
dude.
this person's a little bit low, and they're running away through the back line. It's like, oh my god, what is happening? I just
And that was a perfect
yeah.
impression. That's exactly what they sound like too. And I'm sitting there like, no, I can follow along what's going on. And then like a split second goes by, I'm like, dude, where am I personally?
I
I,
know. They talk so fast too. I'm like, this is so impressive. Like we're like,
Mhm.
oh, he jumped. Oh, he
And
got
and
anti-aired.
that is a down one into a throw. Great conversion right there. Escape failed. And then they're like, and then like I'm not even gonna try to do what you did, bro. But
It's like,
it's
dude.
two different sides. Like it's the same coin, two completely different sides, both requiring a lot of mental knowledge and like energy. But geez, man, those guys are a different breed of whatever the hell this commentary thing is. They gotta be.
Yeah, it's different skills. I love talking to commentators from other like genres though. Like it's super cool to like, it's such a different experience, and then there's so many things that are similar. So like, yeah, I mean, huge shouts to everybody who does every genre, because a lot of people don't realize, but like, whatever genre, you got something special going on. Like you got some unique skill, and it's super tight.
Yeah, and they're the voice of the game. People love the game, and they're the voice that you hear during these some of the biggest moments of that game. Like for example, like when Evo happened and it was like the Street Fighter V thing, those guys in that grand finals, they were the voice of that like unbelievable grand finals that happened in Street Fighter V, right? So super, yeah, it's the talent and the execution of them is just unbelievable. Would you ever dip your feet into a League of Legends style MOBA? Have you done Pokemon Unite?
Yeah, so
Have you
that's what I was gonna
commentated it?
say. I commentated a little bit, and actually, that's another one that I would really like to get into more. It is fun, although it's a lot less hectic than like maybe a normal MOBA. That's kind of like why I like it so much. Is it's got like a almost fighting game-esque like pace to it, and there are some pretty wild big team fights. But like for example, I was just on speaking of my bad sleep schedule, I was just on an Australian stream. Nuggy D, like from the GZ from Ground Zero, ran a like a big league, and they let me guest cast on it recently, and it was a lot of fun. It was a super lot of fun. So I'd really like to cast that game more. I've been playing it a ton, but it's hard. There's a lot of really talented casters already in that game, commentators, and so it's hard to like push in and be like, hey, can I try out here? And they just already have, they're doing such a good job, and they put out like as a team, like the commentators for the game, like they put out like podcasts and they do events and stuff. So it's really cool. I mean, and great stuff on them. But hopefully someday I can commentate a little bit more.
I think you'll be able to break the mold and get in there, Chef. I believe in you. Thanks. I think you can do it. I think one thing that's really like something to commend you on is I think your commentary is so good no matter what game you're, I guess, commentating at that time, because you've taken yourself out of your comfort zone in terms of a commentary position on multiple occasions, right? And I think doing that, you get a whole new set of skills. It doesn't matter where you are. Like if I'm doing YouTube or streaming or whatever the case is, like you get a whole new set of skills when you take yourself out of your comfort zone and do it, and then you bring all of those back into like whatever your core is, right? So like you did Apex stuff that is, some people might say is nowhere near anything of what would happen in a Mortal Kombat, but like I bet you learned like a thing or two that you could take into your Mortal Kombat 11 commentary because you stepped out of that comfort zone.
Yeah. Actually, kind of related to that. I mean, very much related to that. I think that. Well, first of all, it's totally true. Like, it's really important to get different perspectives, especially in the fighting community. Like, we do kind of have. I'm not trying to say it's like easier or anything, but like we do have kind of like one tone commentary, like you were saying. Like there's two people on the screen, and it's very easy to actually just say exactly what happens throughout the entire match all the time, always. And oftentimes that can be good. It's very like you can look at one thing and that's exactly that. So I think a lot of really good commentators out there, what they do is it doesn't necessarily need to be like even commentating like other stuff. Like, obviously I'm lucky that I get to do like, I did that. I did the Apex tournament. I actually did like a bunch of card game stuff for Shadowverse. Nice. I've done, a bunch of like random things, but I think even just watching it. So for my example, like I said, I work in production and I've worked on stuff like, for example, like there are some like Hearthstone casters that I really enjoy. We did like a collegiate thing with Cora and Dr. J, who are two Hearthstone commentators, and I learned a lot from them just watching them, even though I wasn't actually doing it. And I think the same thing goes for like sports commentary. Like there's a lot of people out there who will really be like a fan of one sport, and you can hear it actually kind of transfer over within their style, right? Like it's really cool to just look at that, especially like once you've started like thinking about commentary, going back and you see like differences between like baseball and basketball commentary, and then there's like even like fighting sports, like combat sports commentary, and it's all super different. So I suggest that to anybody who's commentator. Like don't just look and focus on your game itself. Look at other things that might be completely unrelated, and you're gonna learn a lot.
Dude, that's absolutely perfect. Inspiration and things to learn are everywhere. It's not just in whatever. It's not, if I'm making Mortal Kombat videos, I'm watching whatever Valorant videos, I'm watching Apex videos, I'll even watch cooking videos, like whatever, and you just try to pull it when it's all you're thinking about. You can pull inspiration from anywhere, and I love that, and I think that's a good place to cap off the story that we've been on for you. But one thing I want to ask, looking to the future, what games are you excited for, man? Is there anything on the horizon that you're looking forward to, and you just got that date circled on your calendar and you can't wait for it?
I mean, honestly, we're kind of at a spot where most of the games that I was really excited for just came out. There's stuff like far in the future, but it's a lot of like unsure stuff, right? Like I know we're probably, a lot of people are trying to, we're all hoping for some sort of new like NRS announcement, but that's a big question mark. And I mean, Street Fighter 6 looks good, I guess. I was a Street Fighter player before I was an MK player, actually. But most of the stuff is kind of like in the future. We're not sure what's going to happen, if there's going to be an announcement for something, if something's going to actually happen. Like we love a Pokken 2. But right now, I'm really happy with what's coming out. I guess it would have to be Street Fighter 6. I was trying to think through everything. Yeah, it's got to be Street Fighter 6. I'm a big Blanca fan, and he looks super sick in that game. But right now, I'm really happy with what we got. We just started doing a bunch of Gundam stuff that just came out. Omega Striker is actually really fun. I've just been playing that. What else? There like stuff like DNF Duel. Been really big into DNF Duel, and yeah. So I'm pretty happy. just Street Fighter 6, but even that, it's not like this is like, this is what I've been waiting for. Everything that I wanted happened pretty recently, so
Wow.
I'm pretty much chilling and enjoying
I
time.
think you're like the first person to say that in this current environment of games that you're happy with what's out right now. Because I feel like everyone's like, dude, there's no games at all to play. It's great to hear that. And then I know you said before, but for Street Fighter 6, you said you don't go into it thinking about commentary, just go in thinking as a player. Any plans for Street Fighter 6, or just gonna play the game when it comes out and let the universe take its course?
Honestly, exactly what you just said. Like, just gonna play the game, and then we'll see what happens. I also am a I don't know. I like to always say, like, if you don't like a game really, like, you probably shouldn't be on commentary for it, because I think that really shows. And when somebody, more so the other way too, if somebody really likes a game, I've seen commentators that like have like very little tech skill, but you can tell that they just love what's going on, and that's my favorite commentary to watch. Like, I almost like, don't even give a crap if they're good commentators. You're like, yo, this person's getting so into it. I love it. Yeah. So if I love the game, I haven't tried it at all. I didn't get a chance to try it at Evo, none of the game shows or anything. But if I love the game, then yeah, heck yeah, I want to commentate it, of course. Any game that I love, I would love to be a part of it. But if I just kind of like it, or if I end up not liking the system, which did happen to me for 5. I was a huge tournament player for 4. In 5, I played the game. I was enjoying it for a while. I did like one commentary thing for Red Bull, and then I was like, you know what? I don't think I really like this game, and I didn't pursue it anymore. So 6, it's looking really good. I gotta say, it's looking definitely to be my style of game. But we'll see. That's how it's always going to be for me.
And I think that's the perfect place to cap it off. Chef, I can't thank you enough for being on the show, and I cannot wait to see that Cramorant team in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in a few months when it comes out. How about that?
Hopefully it's in Scarlet and Violet. It hasn't been shown yet, but yeah, thank you for having me.